So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another interview of the Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and tonight I'm joined by Chris Herin. You may know him because he's played in other bands, but we're here to discuss his first solo album that's coming out on November 1st, and it's an album that's full of there's very big names on this album, and the album is called Hiding in Plain Sight, and the project is called Herin. So, Chris, first of all, how are you tonight?
I'm excellent, thank you. And how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm well here in Puerto Rico. Where are you located, man?
I'm in the Detroit area, Detroit,
Oh,
Michigan.
oh, back in 2000, I used to live 1 year in Lansing, Michigan.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, not that like an hour away from Detroit. So yes, this project, Hiding in Plain Sight, it's a very personal record. I was reading the backstory for this record. So tell me a little bit about writing this record, and for the people that don't know what the concept of this record is.
I didn't really set out to do a solo album, but like most songwriters, I have a backlog of material. And I had demoed quite a few songs with Terry Brown, the producer of the last, geez, I don't know, four Tiles albums. And we've worked with Terry for over 20 years by now. So anyway, we had demoed these songs just to have them for posterity because I would probably forget them otherwise. And then after the Pretending to Run album in 2016, we spent a couple of years promoting it. And then our singer Paul retired, and we haven't broken up or anything, but we were kind of on hiatus, and then there was the pandemic and all this stuff. And I thought, geez, I hate to just leave these songs and not work on them. So I started working on them. And when it came to the lyrics, I didn't set out to make it the focus of my dad's Alzheimer's and the experience of me and my family with that situation. But the first few lyrics that I wrote were related to those experiences. And it gradually dawned on me that that would be not only uh, helpful to me to maybe have an outlet for that period of time, which was he passed away in 2011, and he had it probably for 9 or 10 years. Um, but it just the lyrics started coming out with those topics and those experiences. And as two or three sets of lyrics occurred, then I thought, well, this is maybe an opportunity to do maybe some small part to help the cause, bring awareness to it. I mean, there's a lot more awareness than there was, 10 or 13 years ago. And there's been great advancements made, but I thought, well, to honor his memory, I turned it into the concept out. Well, I don't want to say concept, but it had a theme, of course.
A theme, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, well, I can donate lots of the proceeds to the Alzheimer's Association. So everything kind of started to tie together. And since it was just me, not a band, I looked for other musicians to contribute. A lot of friends of mine that I've known for a long time, Kevin Chown, Jeff Coleman, lots of people that you would recognize from the current progressive rock scene, but also Alex Lifeson from Rush and Peter Frampton, some of the guys from Jethro Tull. And they really, when we sent them songs for them to consider, um, the lyrics resonated with them, which is good for the project, but unfortunate because, you know, you hate to hear of so many people that have suffered from dementia and Alzheimer's. And then that just started coalescing around them being willing and able to participate. So it's a little bit of a long answer, but so
No,
really
it's
to summarize, I didn't set out to do a concept album or a solo album, and it just took on a life of its own. And I feel really privileged to work with so many of these great artists. There's 30 guests on the album, and to have their support for a project like this that I hope sells well so that I can do justice to the time and effort that they dedicated to the project and make a meaningful donation to the local Alzheimer's activities.
yeah, I think it's a very important record because of, this is a subject that not everybody likes to talk about. So I think it's very brave of you and to tell the story of your father and what you went through, very personal. Which was because you said that the lyrics came pouring. I was wondering, was the first song that you wrote for this The Darkest Hour?
No, that was actually one of the last songs, lyrically at least. I would say the two earliest songs that pointed me in the direction I ended up going are Second Ending, and then the last song on the album, White Dandelions. So
Yeah,
Second
very
Ending is,
beautiful song.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Second Ending is just the concept that people with these um, diseases, they essentially pass away twice, right? They lose their mental capabilities, and then of course there's the physical passing away. So that's where the second ending concept happened, and I relate an experience I had. My family and I were vacationing in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and I was in the water playing with the kids and trying to make sure they didn't drown. And all of a sudden, and it was a very hot day, nice cool breeze. All of a sudden, the clouds out of nowhere came up, and then a very cold and strong wind blew across. And I didn't think much of it, except I noticed it, and it was kind of weird. And then when I got back to a little bit later, my mom had called and said my dad had passed away, and I kind of linked that experience on the beach with roughly the time he would have passed away. So whether or not that's the case, of course, I don't know. But that was the connection I made, and that's what was the catalyst for Second Ending. And then White Dandelions was a lyric that I struggled with including because the last line is, I won't give it away, but it's a very difficult line. And thankfully, Matthew Parmenter, the vocalist, found a delivery that made it poignant as opposed to, distressing, I suppose you'd say. And that song is about the moment when I was sitting at the kitchen table with him, and we had gotten the diagnosis that he had Alzheimer's. And it's interesting you mentioned that I suppose you can never have too much awareness because my family, on both sides of my family, none of us had experienced any of these types of diseases. So as his behavior became more and more strange, we couldn't figure out what was going on. So it's really, I don't want to say embarrassing, but it's unfortunate that we didn't know what was going on with him until he was kind of far along. And that's why when I was sitting at the kitchen table and asking him if he really knew and understood what the diagnosis was, I'm not sure he necessarily did, but So that's two of the songs that really kicked off the whole project.
Yeah, and it's something about this project. You got so many singers and musicians, but it still sounds like it doesn't sound disjointed. Like every song, even though there's different singers, uh, everything blends together so well. Maybe it's because of the caliber of the musicians that you have on this record. When you were like, you wrote the lyrics, when you were looking for people to sing this, did you have people in mind for the different songs, or how did that come together?
Sorry for the phone ringing in the background.
Oh,
If
I
we
didn't
can,
hear anything.
oh, okay. Uh, it was it. I I I also play in the band Discipline, and I knew that I wanted Matthew Parmenter, the singer, to do some of the songs, and I had made friends with Randy McStein, who's a fairly well known within progressive rock circles, a multi-instrumentalist and an excellent vocalist. I knew I wanted him to sing a couple songs. Um, and then a couple of the other vocalists, like Michael Sadler from Saga, uh, the guys in Crownlands, a friend of mine from Toledo. So it just was kind of like people I knew I wanted to work with and were available. And going back to your compliment about how it sounds cohesive, even though there's so many different musicians, it's a testament to working with someone like Terry Brown, who's just there's a reason why the Rush albums sounded
Yeah.
so good, right? And all of his other projects with Fates Warning and Cutting Crew, and I can't remember all of it, but so he really expended lots and lots of effort to make it sound as good as it is, and he worked directly with the artists on um, on the tracks they sent, because obviously most of the guests, I wasn't there for a lot of what they recorded. Um, so it was up to Terry to communicate and make sure the engineering of their performances was good, which it all was. Um, so I kind of viewed it as, it's almost like it doesn't sound like the Alan Parsons project, I don't think, but which is not a bad thing, of course. But I looked at it, well, Alan Parsons has always had multiple singers on his album, so I felt that it could work since I don't sing, maybe some backgrounds here and there, but so that's kind of what really helped the cohesiveness. And there was some effort to make sure that the vocalist was, of course, comfortable with the lyrics and the vocal melodies were comfortable within their ranges. Um, so it wasn't just coincidental. There was some thought put into who would be appropriate for the type of and style of song that we were working on.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So the single that you have for this, you chose The Darkest Hour, and there's a lyric music video with some images. And when I heard the song, but then I watched the music video with the lyrics and the images, and it seems like it's from the point of view of the patient and the caregiver as well, on that song. Can you elaborate a little bit on the meaning of that track?
Well, I'm glad that you could pull that out of the lyrics, because that is the perspective. It really represents the early stages of someone struggling with Alzheimer's or dementia. Um, as the family, um, or the individual, as they get the diagnosis, and because what's ahead, right? Um,
Mhm.
for as serious as other diseases are, and I don't mean to rank, you know, diseases, of course, but it's one of there's no cure for it. So everyone knows what's coming down the road. So those early stages where you have the diagnosis and you all realize what the future holds, it's kind of like you know, those early moments are the darkest hour. Um, and that's why some of the lyrics kind of go through that progression, and why the imagery is kind of dark, like the rain that goes sideways, and because we've all seen rain, especially you in Puerto Rico. Um,
Yes.
you know, uh, the violent storms where there's it's just not a good situation. So that was the gist of that, certainly.
Yeah. When it was time to pick a single for this, uh, what was the process for that? Because it's not an easy album to pick a single out of. This is a very serious record. So when it came time to the single, was that your decision, or was the label also like had an idea of what should be the lead single for this project?
It was a collaboration with the label. I deferred to Ken, the owner of Laser's Edge, because the artists in any project, you get really close to it, and you won't necessarily have um, enough objectivity. Uh,
Mm.
and it wasn't a big deal to me because I like all the songs. So whatever he felt was the best song that would launch the album and get people's interest, because Tiles is a progressive rock band, and I don't know that hiding in plain sight. There are some progressive elements, of course, because that's what I like to do.
Yes, there are some progressive elements, and for people that listen to this, there's like faster type of songs, even though because of the subject matter, because I think people will think that it's a very like slow album because of the subject matter, but no, there's a few songs that kind of reminded me of Rush, like like
Okay.
in the I can't remember now which one. I think maybe A Wrinkle in Time. That was a good one. Uh, but yeah, because people will think, because of the subject matter, it can be like a very slow record. But no, it has different type of things. So going back to what you were saying, so you relied on other people to tell you,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's how when you went to the single.
Yeah, and I didn't disagree. I thought Darkest Hour, because, and you're right, it's mostly up tempo. There are some mid tempos, slower, darker uh, songs, of course, more like I guess, an art rock approach. And then there's a couple pop-ish songs. And it just happened to be, as a songwriter, it's you don't always sit down and have an agenda of what kind of a song you're looking to write. So it's uh it's got some variety to it. Um, but I thought Darkest Hour was representative. It's up tempo. It's got Martin Barr from Jethro Tull on it, and Don Perry from Jethro Tull. And so obviously we know that the marquee value of some of the guests are important marketing avenues too, which is why the second single was Warning Signs with Michael Sadler from Saga. And the third single
I think that one
was
starts the album, right? Warning Signs.
Warning Signs is the lead off
Yeah.
track, correct? And then the third single was The Heart of You with Peter Frampton on it. So,
That one's
um,
that's like a more ballad type of song, but very beautiful lyrics about, like what I could understand for the lyrics. Peter Frampton, he's playing on that. He's playing guitar, right? On that track.
Guitar, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And I didn't write those lyrics. I reconnected with a friend of mine. We used to play at coffee houses and together at college and had lost touch over the years. He actually became a very successful songwriter out in Los Angeles. So I thought, boy, it'd be nice to write a song. His name is Terry Sampson. Be nice to write a song with Terry. Maybe he'll, take pity on me and collaborate on a song. And he liked the rough draft I had. And because we live in the digital realm these days, we could move things around, switch where the verse was in the chorus and make things longer or shorter. So we rewrote the song together, and he wrote the lyrics about his mother. And as a professional songwriter, I think he really touched on a different perspective than I was writing from with the other songs. And that's what struck Peter Frampton when he heard the song in fairly far along in the recording process, which had Terry's vocals and everything was just kind of waiting for a guitar solo or several guitar solos. And Peter had experienced his parents and grandparents. I can't remember how many of them, but a few of them did suffer from dementia and or Alzheimer's. And so he was really touched by those lyrics and enthusiastically, thankfully, contributed great guitar parts, great soloing.
Yeah. No, it really, when you listen to each of these songs, you can tell like the heart that was put into this record. Like it feels very, like real, sincere. The guitars on this record, they're very crisp and beautiful sounding, like classic rock sounding. This is a like a when I listen to this, I think of like 70s, 80s, 90s type of rock and progressive rock to it. Uh, Clean vocals, singing. So yeah, I think it's important for this type of subject to have lyrics that people can understand, and I think it's a very relatable record because, like you said, unfortunately, more people have gone through this than I think it's talked about. Like I think it's more talked about now. I think mental issues and mental diseases are more discussed now than in the past, where people, I don't know, they just didn't want to discuss them and sweep them under the rug. But nowadays, I think we are more open to discussing them. And you told me that the people who buy the album physically buy like a lot of the proceeds are going to the Alzheimer's organization.
Yes. Yeah. Um, I'm in touch with the local Detroit area. Obviously, it's a very large national organization with lots of
Mhm.
chapters and things all over the country. So, and they do 5K runs and all kinds of different fundraising type efforts. So it's just in the beginning stages of how maybe um, they can help promote. I don't mean promote, but I guess or publicize or bring attention to the project. But yes, I will definitely be donating the proceeds to the local Alzheimer's organization. And there's different factions of it. Walk to End Alzheimer's and Alzheimer's.org, ALZ.org. We put the easy to find, but we put the links in the liner notes.
Yeah, I'll try. I'll put it in the description box too for people who
Okay.
like to, obviously pre-order the album or donate in any way they can. So I want to show the artwork of the record, which I think it's a pretty good artwork, and I think there's a lot of symbolism to it. So here we have the artwork for hiding in plain sight. So tell me a little bit about what you wanted to convey with this artwork.
I will confess that I had a difficult time coming up with a title. We went probably through 6 or 7 different titles and they didn't really stick. Or because I asked for input from Terry Brown and from Ken at Laser's Edge, because I wanted to get some outside input because covers are important, of course. And we couldn't get traction, come to any real conclusion that I felt really satisfied with. And of course, we've worked with Hugh Syme, another Rush connection, um, who did almost all of the Rush artwork and works with Dream Theater and, hundreds of album covers to his credit, of course. So he had this piece of art and it was related to a different album title. And when we finally thought that Hiding in Plain Sight, even though there's other albums out there entitled Hiding in Plain Sight, we felt that it really represented, or I felt, it really represented the dementia Alzheimer's situation because it's a disease, obviously, that um, progresses slowly. So someone's in the early stages and maybe you see little anomalies in their behavior, but the disease is hiding, but it's technically right there in front of you. And when we felt settled on the title, we went back and looked at this particular cover and it really seemed to fit because as you can see, there's the array of different crumpled pieces of paper and different colors. So it's kind of a collection. And then right there in the middle is the black crumpled piece of paper. So he's not easily seen, but when you look
Yeah.
closely, then you can see it. So that was kind of how that developed. I don't want to spoil anybody's interpretation too much, so there's
No,
probably
I
some
think
other.
it's I don't know. I think it can be interpreted different ways. Uh I look at it and since I know what the album is about, I interpret it like it that could be pieces of the mind. Like and
Hmm.
every color is different things. And maybe the black color is like maybe like where the disease started. It can be seen different ways, but it's a very good album artwork, and I think the name, even though you said that there's other albums named Hiding in Plain Sight, I think fits perfect with with the themes of this record.
Yes, thanks. And I had never thought of that perspective, which is a lot of the beauty of the artwork that Hugh comes up with. There's, as anybody who's familiar with Hugh's work knows, that there's always multiple layers of meaning and interpretations that you can get out. I mean, I don't know how he does it because virtually every album cover that he comes up with has that depth to it. So nobody can be that lucky. So he must be pretty good. But that's
Yeah.
interesting that you mentioned, and the different colors could represent different stages or different personalities, because we know that the people's personalities change and they go through maybe more of an agitated phase before and maybe kind of I don't want to say hostile. There's a better word. I can't think of it. Um, so there's lots of changes that the individual goes through. And going back to the Heart of You song that Terry Sampson wrote, that was what he related to is he would, my dad had Alzheimer's and his mom had dementia. So there's differences there, but they would say something to
Yes.
his
There
mom in the
there's some
morning,
differences, but yeah.
right? They would say something to his, he would say something to his mom in the morning, and then of course, an hour later, she would ask him the same question and not remember. So it's more of that uh, short-term type of forgetfulness. But anyway, I'm off target from the artwork. And on the back of the album, there's a secondary image, which is kind of cool. It's a kind of a blue and white Arctic um, image, and snuck in there is a snow rabbit and a polar bear. So as with all of Hugh's artwork, throughout the packaging, the booklet and stuff, um, is a lot of imagery involving the hiding in plain sight. So I've always valued artwork, and I know in this day and age, people don't like to maybe put that much time, effort, or expense into it, but I can't help it. I think growing up since, I'm 60 years old. So when you mention 70s and 80s music, well, that's what I grew up on. So, and back then when you had albums and even CDs, the packaging was full of great artwork that you could absorb while you listened to the music. So, um, Tiles, we've always put that little extra effort and expense into the artwork of our projects. And once you work with someone like Hugh, uh, it's hard to not always work with them because it turns out so good.
No,
Turns
it
out,
really turned out so good. I haven't seen the packaging. I in the promo they sent only the front, but it sounds like
oh,
a cool piece altogether. Uh, so, Chris, where can they like pre-order? People who want to pre-order this record, where can they do so?
well, the Laser's Edge has a Bandcamp page, so you can get the 24-bit digital version, the 16-bit digital. You can order the CD. There are other, since I was checking out your YouTube page, and you have lots of excellent stuff. I wanted to
Oh, thank
compliment
you.
you on that. So clearly you have an international audience. In Germany, there's Just for Kicks. In the UK, Burning Shed is carrying it. You can pre-order. If you wait just a couple, they probably ship now because they ship it out to make sure you get it by November 1st. So I think some people are actually receiving the CD. And then there's lasercd.com, the labels, um, a different aspect of the Laser's Edge operations. It's a really good place that you can buy hard to get types of CDs and things. So it shouldn't be hard to find, thankfully.
No, no, good. And I'm glad I got the promo and I got to listen to it and here talking to you to promote, an album that also kind of touches me personally, because knowing people that go through that in my personal life. So I want to thank you, for taking some time, to chat with me tonight about this record. So, Chris, before I let you go, anything that you would like to say to the people who will be watching this music video, this
Mhm.
video.
Well, just thanks a lot for the opportunity, Hector. I appreciate the time and effort you put into listening and coming up with the questions. They were really good. I really appreciate the focus on the theme and the lyrics. I just encourage people to maybe take a few minutes and check some of the songs out. You can preview them on Bandcamp, and there's the 3 videos that are out on YouTube. And if you enjoy the songs, and hopefully you'll purchase the music. And at some point in time, I hope to have a press release in 6 months or so, and let everybody know that their support of the project helped generate a certain amount of money that's been donated to the Alzheimer's Association. Because I certainly feel obligated to the musicians who dedicated their time and talent. Most of them did it for free, and the ones that I gave some money to because I insisted, because they're professional musicians, and I felt it was important to support their livelihood. Um, but anyway, I'd like to thank you again, of course, and I think you earlier made a very good point that it almost sounds like it's going to be such a depressing, slit your wrists, doom and gloom
That's why I wanted
listening.
to make sure for people who are hearing this, thinking like, yeah, this that sounds like something that I don't want to hear, to let them know, no, it's not all doom or gloom. There's positivity in the record. So
Yes,
I wanted to let that know very clear so people wouldn't stay away from it.
right. I appreciate that. So, I mean, it's not heavy-handed. It's just kind of reflections and just relaying experiences. And in some ways, if people have experienced that, I hope that it resonates in a slightly connection type of way. I mean, I wouldn't wish anyone to have to experience much. I mean, experience ourselves, but much less, with your family members and stuff. But since it does happen, hopefully the lyrics speak to people, and just to know that there's a lot of people in the same experiencing similar. Well, I was going to say experiences, but that's not very good grammar. But you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no, yeah,
Experience.
there's people who are in the, what we say, like in the same shoes, like in all over the world, people experience things like this. It doesn't matter your culture, race, religion. This is a disease that doesn't discriminate, and anyone would suffer from this. So I think it's a universal thing. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Right. But I feel, I feel a little weird because it's not a celebration or
No, it's
of a
not. No.
universal theme or anything. And again, I appreciate making the distinction that it's, even if you didn't know what the lyrics were about, or that there's this theme to the whole thing, I think the lyrics would translate to other situations. Um, so it can be a positive listening experience without the framework of dementia and Alzheimer's
Yeah, no,
concepts.
I agree with you. So again, Chris, thank you for joining me from all the way from Detroit to my couch here in Puerto Rico.
Mhm.
So couchers, that's what I call my fans my couchers. So couchers, you heard it here. The Chris Herin solo album is coming out November 1st. So I would say check it out if you like classic rock, progressive rock, and especially, this is an important album discussing, something that is not discussed often. So it's called Hiding in Plain Sight, out November 1st, 2024. So until next time, couchers, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you
Mhm.
and goodbye.